looking at unemployment numbers, looking at job numbers, looking at what's going on, there's nothing wrong with the Texas economy except Texans are doing like all of you do in your own budget, is that when things look tight and you're afraid that things may be slowing down, instead of going to the movie on Friday night, you don't go. Instead of having steak, you eat hamburger. You tighten the belt, you pull the money back, and I think that's what's happening in Texas right now. Texans mentally are making the corrections and making sure that we don't get in trouble, but by doing that, they're not spending as much, which means sales tax collections are down. Now, that's a negative today, but if you look at national numbers on credit card debt, it is going down at a record rate. We've never had total debt on credit cards in the United States decreasing like it is right now. Again, Texas is one of the leaders on that. So, Texans as a whole, we are a group that understand how to survive. We will survive through this, but now we're going to get, I want to talk a little bit about Brownwood and things that are likely to happen. Because we have a $5 billion deficit in Texas, there's only two choices before we get that money. We have a balanced budget that says we cannot spend more than we take in. So we either have to increase your taxes, or we have to spend less. Or we have to take the money from the $9 billion surplus, but if we take it from the surplus and spend it, and we have a deficit next year, we got a problem. So likely what's going to happen into this session, and there's already been a request from the Lieutenant Governor, Speaker, and Governor to all the agencies to try to cut spending by 5% as a starting place so that we can start skinning up the budget. It's not unlike all of you do in your personal budget. If the revenue stream is not there, you just cut back. You don't go to the bank and borrow money. You just don't spend as much. That's likely what's going to happen in Texas this time. We are going to tighten our belt. There's going to be some programs that potentially will not be fully funded during this cycle. There's a lot of the sacred cows that every agency in coming forward are saying, yes, I understand we got to cut, but don't cut us. We can't, tax the man behind the tree or tax the guy behind the tree. Our agency can't afford it. So every agency is going to be looked at. Now, we got the call I got from the mayor this year, this week, addressed one of those issues. We're concerned about the Havens unit here. We got beat up, was it 4 years ago? 4 years ago? That they came in and we took a pretty good haircut, had a realignment, and we're nervous about how that will be played out. There's talk about laying off guards, but that is not uncommon when you have a deficit budget and they tell an agency to cut their expenses. The first thing they do is they sound the alarm and say the sky's falling, everything is terrible about to happen, to alarm the community so they respond. It is my job to try to do everything I can to protect the structures and the necessary services we have in the state. But also understand I have an obligation as one of your elected leaders to make sure that Texas lives within its means. So it's going to be an interesting tightrope we're going to walk. There are numerous things that we're going to be watching, as like the Havens unit, the making sure that we, if at all possible, create those jobs in this community. We're going to be looking at things like, I know at Howard Payne, what's the scholarship fund? Tuition equalization grant. I'm sorry. TEG fund. That's one of those that it's always a concern about whether it will be there. I would say probably that's one that will survive because it's one of the really, it's good bangs for the buck for the state to educate the children. They're going to be looking at the community colleges and TSTC funding. So there's all of those things that will be talked about. I would suspect the people in this room, we're going to have a lot of conversation between now and next June when the budget happens. And it happens every time there's a budget cycle. But keep in mind, first of all, this community in its starting point is much better than the rest of the state. But if we're going to balance our budget, and if now I will throw this in, even though sales tax